Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 21st General Assembly of Canoc. Permit me to acknowledge the head table at this point in time. The Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment for the Republic of Barbados, the Honorable Charlie Griffith. The President of Canoc, Mr. Keith Joseph. The President of the Barbados Olympic Association, our host country. Canoc Vice President, First Vice President, Mr. Carson Ebanks, and Dr. Akash Mansingh, Dean of the Faculty of Sport at the University of the West Indies. I invite you to stand for the national anthem of the Republic of Barbados. I invite you to remain standing for the Olympic anthem. I invite you to remain standing, and I invite Mrs. Annette Knott, the Secretary General of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, to lead us in prayer. And colleagues, while we say our prayer this morning, Let us keep in our thoughts our colleague Godfrey Bean, who would have received the news at 2 a.m. this morning that his eldest son, 38, suddenly passed away. We spoke to Godfrey a short while ago, and he extends his best wishes for a successful meeting and asks that we accept understandably that he cannot be here with us for the meeting.
We bow our heads, close our eyes, and welcome into our presence 4 blessings in all our religions, our spiritual blessings this morning. We ask our spiritual leaders and all that we worship special prayer for Jeffrey this morning as we all find ourselves relating to this. We also ask that the General Assembly is all that we ask of it, and blessed the executive members that have worked hard to bring us to this, our 20th anniversary. In Jesus' name we pray.
My apologies. Please be seated. We now go to the official part of the ceremony. I now invite Mrs. Sandra Osborne, the President of the Barbados Olympic Association. I now invite Ms. Sandra Osborne, the President of the Barbados Olympic Association, to give us the official welcome.
Honorable Charles Griffith, Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, Mr. Keith Joseph, President of the Caribbean Association of National Olympic Committees, Mr. Brian Lewis, Secretary General, Canoc, Mr. Carson Banks, First Vice President, members of the Canoc Executive Committee, Dr. Akshay Mansingh, Dean, Faculty of Sports, the University of the West Indies, Presidents, Secretaries General, and delegates of the members of Canoc, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, thank you for allowing me a few minutes to extend a welcome to everyone present. Mr. Minister, my personal thanks to you for agreeing to participate in the opening ceremony of the 21st Canoc General Assembly. The Barbados Olympic Association works closely with the Ministry of Sport on a number of issues, and it is an honor that you have graced us with your presence today. Our decision to offer to host this Canoc General Assembly was an easy one, marking as it does 20 years since the inauguration of Canoc in July 2003. It is my understanding that following its consummation right here in Barbados in 1999, followed by a rather long gestation period of 4 years, Canoc was inaugurated in the Dominican Republic in July of 2003. This occasion therefore provides us with an opportunity to formally mark a key milestone and to recognize the contribution of my dear friend and colleague Steve Stout, who was one of, if not the principal architect behind the idea to form this organization, chairing the Caribbean Caucus from 1999 and then becoming its first president from 2003 to 2017. Canoc has lived up to its mandate and continues as a strong presence in sport regionally. The foresight of Steve and the pioneers is to be commended for having laid the foundation of what Canoc is today. Yesterday, we had some timely discussions on important subjects, which, if our time is not to be in vain, must be crafted into frameworks that create clear and fit for purpose pathways to address these burning issues. Certainly, following the sustainability workshop and our discussions over the last few days, we at the BOA feel vindicated by our small decision to take a small step in reducing our carbon footprint by, for example, eliminating the customary notepads and pens from your gift bags. In closing, it is my pleasure to extend a formal welcome to everyone to this 21st Canoc General Assembly on behalf of the Barbados Olympic Association. We have had the privilege of hosting two previous Canoc General Assemblies in 2008 and again in 2014. We are pleased to welcome Canoc back to Barbados after 9 years, although there are some new faces among us. Mr. President, it just remains for me to wish you, your executive, and all delegates a successful and fruitful General Assembly, and thank you for granting us the honor to be your host. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Osborne. I now invite the President of Canoc, Mr. Keith Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. General Secretary. And thank you for the protocol that has been placed before us. On behalf of the executive of our organization, I bid you a most warm and enduring welcome to this, our 21st General Assembly. It is also of much significance that we are graced here this morning with the presence of one of our organization's founders, Steve Stout. Steve is on record as the longest-serving president of Canoc, and before that, its forerunner, the Caribbean Caucus of National Olympic Committees. Steve was the one credited with challenging the Olympic movement in the Americas to be consistent with the IOC's spirit of Olympism. He advocated for the inclusion in our movement of those territories that, because of their colonial status, were denied the opportunity to establish national Olympic committees. He insisted at every forum possible that those territories could and must be accommodated. And so he began by bringing them into the membership of Canoc as associate members. Steve then became Canoc's advocate, an advocate par excellence, for the inclusion of those same territories to become associate members of the then Central American and Caribbean Sports Organization, which is today Central Caribbean Sports. And he requested and later demanded that the athletes be allowed to participate in the Central American and Caribbean Games. They have. Unfortunately, though, his and our efforts to have the aforementioned territories benefit from similar recognition and inclusion in Pan Am sports and the Pan American Games have been met with unfortunate resistance. Rest assured, however, that the struggle continues. Today, dear friends, we live in an environment that is in a state of flux in virtually every aspect: economic, political, religious, ethnic, social, sport, cultural. And one simply has to spend a few minutes watching world news to garner an understanding of the state of the world as we have come to know it. Sport has, however, taken center stage in the global arena, a hotbed of crises, but a consistent reminder that despite all of the claims in respect of the power of sport, we are constantly reminded that, like everything else in life, it too has its dark, despicable side that threatens to allow the untrammeled pursuit of economic gain to derail all of the positive values that we hold dear. There is today, however, an unmasking of sport. The insidious side of sport is now being laid bare for all the world to see. The challenges pending are therefore innumerable, but I guarantee you, not insurmountable. In the Americas, the major challenge is for us to end the weighted voting system that discriminates against those countries that have not hosted the Pan American Games and the Central American and Caribbean Games. And while the statutes of Pan Am Sports allows for associate members, there is as yet no mechanism in place to facilitate such membership. And we must continue to lobby for Pan Am Sports to effect such a mechanism. Here at home in the Caribbean, we are agreed that the time has come for Canoc to be duly recognized as the region's most important sporting body, committed to work with governments, CARICOM, the OECS Secretariat, and the University of the West Indies to firmly establish a true Caribbean sports culture, one that caters to the systematic sport and physical activity development from the cradle to the grave. History will not absolve us if we fail in our efforts at the inculcation of all that is positive in sports, building a Caribbean solidarity and indeed genuine Caribbean unity. Ours is an historical trajectory imbued with the incredible energy of our peoples through the years. Ours is an amazing responsibility to lift our spirits, holding each other's hands and reaching beyond possible. Let us have yet another successful General Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Joseph. And I now take great pleasure in inviting, and I ask that we welcome and acknowledge the Honorable Charlie Griffith, the Minister of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment for the Republic of Barbados.
Protocols having been established, good morning. Madam President, forgive me for still using paper. This assembly is one that I think is so important in relation to how we treat the sport. And I want to start by juxtaposing a statement that came from former Prime Minister and relate it to sports. Now, I was at a political meeting, and Prime Minister Alpha indicated that while studying at the University of West Indies, oftentimes he would miss the last bus home to St. Peter. And he indicated at the time that it was not so much that he was walking home after missing the last bus, but for him, he was walking out of poverty. And I want to suggest to you today that in the same vein that he was walking out of poverty, your deliberations will impact the lives of this region in terms of some of our young people figuratively and literally running out of poverty. because sports is at that level that we can impact on the lives of our young people within the region. But it would be remiss of me for me not to welcome you on behalf of government to my beloved country. I must put a plug early in as well for my indigenous sports, and if you're here overnight, we're having road tennis at the Village Gymnasium, which is next door to the BOA. I invite all of you to see what is happening there. I want to start with gratitude in relation to the Barbados Olympic Association. If you're looking at excellence in terms of the way how an organization is run, then you look no further to our BOA. It is one of those organizations that, as Madam President would have mentioned, we're forging ties, government and the BOA, to ensure that we have the best of what is available on island for our athletes. And I will say to you that over the years, the impact of the BOA on sports in Barbados is totally immeasurable. Totally. So I salute the BOA for what they're doing on island. "21 years of doing this must mean that there are some things that you're doing right in relation to impacting sports in this region. I am besotted with those two words that you're using for your team this morning, beyond possible, because I think it is something that should be innate in every national federation, in every club, in every youngster, in terms of what they can achieve if they decide to dream. But this morning I walked with my own beyond possible wish list for this caucus. I know yesterday you would have had your deliberations and maybe some of this is only revision. But these are some of the things that I believe if we're to move forward as a region and if we're to stand on podium on a regular basis, that there must be an effort where all of us are working in concert to achieve a single goal. My wish list. On Friday, I happened to be in an extensive meeting with Paul Francis, who is the coach of Shade Williams, our poster girl. And some of the things that he shared with me made me realize that we're, in some cases, still in the starting blocks as far as sports is concerned, maybe in Barbados, maybe in other areas. We are trying in Barbados to be as inclusive as possible in terms of embracing people with disability. One of our issues, there's a shortfall as far as coaches are concerned. And I'm asking this body to look and see how individually your organizations can look to trigger a process of us having coaches to deal with that particular demographic as it relates to sports. Because I think it is being left behind, and I may be speaking only about my country, but I think there's a need to have a number of coaches on island. Married to that is the development of as well as our coaches within the region. Some of the things that Mr. Francis indicated was mind-boggling when he said that there's a piece of equipment that they have within their club that the hospital in Jamaica is yet to procure. We need to move in a direction where our coaches are providing our athletes with quality coaching. I have always maintained it is impossible for us to have world-class athletes without world-class coaches. One of the other areas that I would want addressed is the fact that technology. I know that the BOA on island is doing a lot in terms of the financial assistance to our athletes, whether this be in kind or direct cash. But there's a need, if as a region, for us to compete with everything else that is happening in the world, that technology must be embedded in every single training, every single thing that we're doing in terms of preparing teams and individuals for sports. Since coming to office as minister, I have asked that a number of pieces be added to the National Sports Council to assist not only the national federations, but to assist those coaches who want to move to the next step. One of the other things that I would want this grouping to look at is transportation within the region. It is a massive, massive problem. Last month, I had to interact with two of my counterparts in the region because two of our national teams were stranded and could not get home. Now, I have no idea how deep the pockets of your organizations are, but I'm suggesting that if we do not, in one sense, purchase a plane to move our athletes across the region, then we should approach one of the carriers to be that dedicated carrier to move our athletes from one competition to the next competition. Another area of concern is the fact that we have a dearth of professionals to treat to sports. I have asked the National Sports Council to either employ or to source, for example, a sports psychologist to work with our national teams and our national athletes in terms of preparation for major sporting events. I think as a body, it may be necessary now for you in association with your parent government or the Ministry of Sports to approach the University of the West Indies to ensure that we have degree programs that will impact sports, programs that will make us viable in terms of how we treat to the development of sports as a region. Another area of concern, and this is now, something that I believe the national federations should probably look at, in terms of the organizations should look at the national federations on the island in terms of having strategic plans for sports going forward. Maybe it is a case where you can tie that particular initiative to funding from the Olympic organizations, but there's a need now that if you're functioning at the level that you're functioning, that the NFs within the region should also step up and be embracing the notion of beyond possible. Because if we do that, then it will redound to the benefit of those who we serve. There's a need for more competition in the region, and this body, I'm sure, can trigger that. We have Carifta, we have one or two others, but there's a need for us to sharpen steel with steel. And the only way we're going to do that is if we have competition within the region at a regular basis in relation to, and this is going to also impact sports tourism. Because the economies of scale would not allow, for example, Barbados to really engage in semi-professional leagues as we would want to. But if it is a case where we're fusing our resources together, then there's a possibility that we can have semi-professional leagues in the Caribbean in relation to those sports that we consider to be mass-based. I think it is an absolute must now that we do this, because if not, a lot of our talent, a lot of those persons, a lot of the diamonds in the rough that we would want to discover and uncover will remain in a dormant state forever. And I was speaking to one organization in Jamaica with the understanding that, for example, basketball can be transitioned into a semi-professional sport. I believe that if this is the case, some of our youngsters can earn a living, and it is a possibility then that it can grow throughout the region. I mentioned before the collaboration. I think that we should put together a database. This caucus, these different entities should put together a database of best practices that can be shared throughout the region. Because if we want to progress as a region, then we cannot function in silos. It cannot be a situation where I'm hoarding my best practices and I'm not sharing with everyone. And I think that that database technology is one that is now allowing you to do a myriad of things, and I believe it is one of the things that we should do in terms of sharing best practices. We know that it is a case where almost every single championship you're looking to see who coming out of Jamaica is going to be on podium and what position on podium. If it is a case where we can fuse together the resources that are available to ensure that all of us move in that direction, then I think we will be doing a good in terms of beyond possible. Now, I don't know how possible it is, but like I said, this is another one that is on my wish list. But I think as a region, we should now be looking to move in terms of having teams similar only in relation to the fact that it is the West Indies cricket team, but we know what is happening there now. But I think going forward, we need to look at having regional teams represent us, not only in cricket, but to come together in terms of maybe sending a basketball team to the Olympics, sending a regional hockey team to the Olympics, and international events. We have talent at home, all of us, and I'm suggesting that the numbers may not be enough for us to compete at the world level. But if we come together as a collective, then I suggest that those benefits in terms of winning will be well received across the region. And all of you know what it is like, the pride that we move and stride with when our cricket team is doing well. Why is it not possible that we move to a stage where we can put together different teams from different disciplines to represent us as a region? I think there's a need for a research and development arm of your caucus that will help to help all of the national federations to be on the cutting edge in relation to different disciplines. Beyond possible. That is the driving force. That is what I think is necessary to infuse a totally different mindset, to help persons to pivot away from the belief or the notion that sports is just sports and it is not serious business. I happen to know it is a billion-dollar industry. But how do we get individuals outside of this room to pivot in a direction to embrace sports within the schools, within the communities? My portfolio, youth, sports, and community empowerment. And I try to marry all of them together to get a result that is necessary. How do this caucus move in a direction? What is it that we will take away from this that will help the region to pivot away from the notion that, oh, he is only playing sports because he's not an academic? We need to move away from that type of thinking. I welcome this. I look forward to see the results of your deliberations and what can happen. In government, we're doing a number of things locally to ensure that we can move our young people to a different level, whether it be providing assistance at the gymnasium in terms of having those persons have free access to training with the weights, whether it be using community programs to unearth new talent, because I think that if we are to find those same diamonds in the rough, there's a reservoir of untapped talent within the region. It's just a matter of us discovering that reservoir, that untapped talent, and helping those youngsters to run out of poverty. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for taking your time and for your thoughtful and insightful words. We sincerely appreciate it. We now move on to a message from IOC member and in his capacity today as president of ODESUR, Mr. Camilo Perez. Let's have a listen.
Dear President Keith Joseph, Secretary General Brian Lewis, members of the Executive Committee, distinguished Caribbean Olympic family, on behalf of ODESUR, I send you our sincere wishes for successful General Assembly. This meeting will strengthen the Caribbean Olympic spirit and help promote sport growth in the region. We are confident that your deliberations will promote sport and Olympic values. I hope to see you very soon in Santiago de Chile during the Pan American Games.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Perez, for that brief message. We now have a listen to Luis Mejías,
Con gran alegría.
the president of Central Caribbean Sports.
Con gran alegría y enorme satisfacción, me dirijo a todos mis amigos, compañeros y miembros de la Asociación Nacional de Comités Olímpicos Caribeños, Canoc, que en esta ocasión está en medio de sus jornadas de trabajo, mesas de trabajo y la 21ª Asamblea General de Canoc. Quiero manifestarle todo nuestro apoyo y compromiso y sobre todo satisfacción por el curso, el trabajo y el entusiasmo que noto en los trabajos de Canoc. Hay un ambiente propio para subir los peldaños que siempre he entendido que merece esta justa organización caribeña del deporte. En esta asamblea es nuestro deseo que sigan dándose los pasos de avance que viene desarrollando Canoc en todos los órdenes, con los atletas, con los dirigentes, con aspectos fundamentales como la educación, como el medio ambiente, como el género mujer y todas las actividades que de aquí se desarrollan. Es mi propósito seguir apoyando los siguientes Juegos del Caribe. Aspecto muy importante. En definitiva, desde Centro Caribe Sport vemos a Canoc como uno de nuestros brazos armados, como parte nuestra, porque todos somos caribeños. Enhorabuena, queridos amigos. Sigan adelante. Nos quedan demasiadas jornadas para juntos trabajar en beneficio de nuestros atletas, de nuestros pueblos y de la región más hermosa del mundo, la región caribeña. Feliz resto del día. Bendiciones.
Thank you very much, Louis. And we will now have a greeting from the president of Pan Am Sports, Nevin Illick.
Hello, good to be part of this General Assembly. Thank you, Keith, and everybody for inviting me to say some words. First, I would like to congratulate you for the great effort that you are doing every day for the athletes of your country. I know that you are doing a great effort. You are giving your time. But I think that will be very great to have in Santiago all the teams coming from Canoc. And from here, from Santiago, just to tell you that we will be ready. We are working very hard, but we will receive all of you here in Santiago in the Pan American Games. All the best. Thank you for the great job that you are doing for Pan Sport, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elec, President of Pan Am Sports. And we now will have a greeting from Dame Louise Martin, the President of the Commonwealth Games Federation.
President Keith Joseph, CGF Regional Vice President Fortuna Belrose, and all my Caribbean sporting colleagues. Thank you for inviting me to address your General Assembly once again. As a proud supporter of Canoc and this event, I am delighted to contribute and sincerely regret that I cannot be with you in person. I was happy, however, to see so many of you in Trinidad and Tobago, and I must thank you all for everything you did to support the incredible success of the Commonwealth Youth Games just 2 months ago. Tobago 2023 was delivered in record time and in a landscape that demanded innovation, commitment and flexibility from our sporting family. By being bold and working in partnership, and with your support, you truly delivered. The first ever Youth Games in the Caribbean, the first ever Youth Games across 2 islands, Parasport included for the very first time, and the largest ever mobilisation of volunteers in the country, and ambitious investments in sporting infrastructure. My heartfelt thanks go to you and all your athletes across the Caribbean and Americas region for supporting and contributing to this success. And please allow me to give special mention to all members and officials, past and present, of the Trinidad and Tobago Commonwealth Games Association for their incredible dedication and efforts. President Diane Henderson, thank you for your leadership. And past President Brian Lewis and Secretary General Annette Knott, thank you for setting the vision and ambition right from the very beginning. Well done to you all. I have 2 standout memories of the event. One is the deafening reaction to the performance of Trinidad swimmer Nikolai Blackman, winning the first of what would be 3 golds in the pool at Couva. He won the first gold for Trinidad and Tobago at the event and made a massive contribution to the impressive success of the host country on the medal table, placing 7th with a total of 15 medals. What a fantastic achievement and unbelievable sporting legacy for the hosts. My second memory is of the opening ceremony, a passionate, educational, inspiring and authentic celebration of the Commonwealth, of our young athletes and the deeply important significance of Emancipation Day and our shared history. It was a terrific ceremony and other games could learn from it. One of the best ceremonies I have ever seen. The feedback generally to date has been so positive, and we are now going through the process of formally evaluating the event to celebrate the successes and document the learnings. I am confident the region can build on the successful hosting of the Youth Games, and I look forward to seeing and supporting how you build on this momentum and attract more events to the region. The Youth Games were an important demonstration of our unity, our humanity and our values at a time when we needed it most. We were also shocked by the cancellation of the Victoria 2026 Commonwealth Games and the subsequent decision by Alberta to no longer proceed with their work on proposals for a 2030 bid. At a time of uncertainty, Tobago 2023 brought us together and truly showcased our purpose and connections as a family focused on diversity, inclusion and youth. It was inspiring and uplifting to be with you in the Caribbean at this challenging time, and I want to thank you all for your advice and friendship. I have no doubt that, as always, the Caribbean will be an impactful and constructive voice as we chart and navigate the way ahead. Thank you in advance for your support, and I look forward to seeing you at the virtual regional meetings next week, and of course, in person in Singapore. Thank you again for the invitation to address you today, and I wish you all the best for your General Assembly. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Dame Louise Martin. And we'll now have a special greeting from Mr. Thomas Bach, the President of the International Olympic Committee.
Dear Canoc President, Mr. Keith Joseph, dear Olympic friends, your General Assembly is taking place in exciting times. As you celebrate the 20th anniversary of Canoc this year, I would like to add my heartfelt congratulations on this important milestone for sport in the Caribbean. You have every reason to look back with great pride on the past 20 years, a time during which the performances of your athletes have put the Caribbean firmly on the map of the sporting world. Beyond the field of play, you're bringing the joy of sport to all the Caribbean communities, spreading the Olympic spirit throughout society. We are also in a pre-Olympic year, and with the Pan Am Games in Santiago de Chile only days away, your athletes will concentrate on qualifying for the Olympic Games Paris 2024. All of us, the National Olympic Committees, your national federations, the IOC, and the entire Olympic community, all of us will support the athletes so that they can give it their best. And of course, I hope to see many of your athletes in action already now in Santiago de Chile. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us when I say that we all feel a tremendous anticipation ahead of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. The athletes, the fans, Canoc, and the Caribbean sporting family, all of us are looking forward to a new era of Olympic Games. Younger, more inclusive, more urban, more sustainable. The first Olympic Games with full gender parity. Olympic Games inspired by Olympic agenda from start to finish. Already now, I wish all your athletes all the very best on their road to Paris. When I learned that your General Assembly is taking place in Barbados, it immediately brought back fond memories of my visit to many of your beautiful Caribbean islands earlier this year. I could see firsthand that the Caribbean is a place where sporting passion runs deep. Your love for sport and its values is evident wherever you go. And it is probably one of the factors that explains the extraordinary success story of your athletes. This is why I would like to congratulate all of you at Canoc under the great leadership of your President Keith Joseph for all the important work you are doing day in, day out to support your athletes and to promote sport for all across the region. Canoc and the IOC enjoy a strong partnership. Together, we are working towards the realization of Olympic Agenda 2020+5, contributing to achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. With our Olympism 365 strategy, we have a framework to strengthen partnerships with NOCs and development institutions in areas such as health, education, gender equality, climate action, peace, and many more. This allows us to even better pursue our shared mission to make the world a better place through sport. At your General Assembly, you have every opportunity to set the course for the future on the road to Paris 2024, to LA 28, and beyond. Building on the strong foundation that you have built at Canoc, you can look ahead with great confidence. Because as your athletes have shown, we can only go faster, aim higher, become stronger if we stand together in solidarity. Our partnership is the perfect illustration of this, our new Olympic motto: faster, higher, stronger, together. In this Olympic spirit, I wish you fruitful discussions and a successful General Assembly, and I'm looking forward to meeting many of you in Santiago de Chile in a few days, and later on next year in Paris 2024. All the very best.
Thank you very much. That was a quick flight to Lausanne. Let me just say, as I was listening to the IOC president, I looked across the room and I saw Mr. Steve Stout smiling during the duration of that address as he listened to the word. And I told myself, I know what he was thinking. I'm not a mind reader, but I suspect he was saying, look where Canoc reached. An IOC president, because he knew the struggle. Look at his face, look, look. He turning red, he blushing. Look where Canoc reached. He's alive to see it. On this note, the Honorable Charles Griffith, Minister of Youth, Sports and Empowerment, Community Empowerment, it is really an honor and a privilege for us to have you here at this particular point also, as we will have the signing of a cooperation agreement between Canoc and the University of the West Indies, one of the premier, if not the premier, education institutions in the region. And to arrive at this point also signals, Mr. Stout, look where your baby reached. We are now signing an agreement between Canoc and the University of the West Indies to be witnessed by the Honorable Charles Griffith, the Minister of Sport, or the Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment in the Republic of Barbados. So,
thank you very much, Mr. Lewis, and all protocols observed as well. If you just indulge me a few minutes to just speak to this cooperation agreement and also to the Faculty of Sport at the University of the West Indies, especially after what Minister had said a bit earlier on. The Faculty of Sport was opened at the University of the West Indies in 2017. And for those who are not familiar with the University of the West Indies, we are a university that belongs to 17 countries, only one of two multinational universities in the world, University of South Pacific being the other one. We're 75 years old and rated in the top 1.5 percentile universities of the world. Our Vice Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, had the vision that sportsmen in the region must be able to pursue education and sport at home and not have to go overseas. And the Faculty of Sport opened in 2017. And as the inaugural dean, I am in charge of all campuses. So Mona Academy of Sport, Cave Hill Academy of Sport, St. Augustine Academy of Sport, and the Global Academy of Sport, Global Campus, which is covering the other 14 countries. We have top-notch programs that we've started immediately with the BSc in sport coaching, because we recognize that we need to raise the level of coaches in the region, along with a slew of other BSc programs straight up to PhD. And I'm thrilled to tell you that our PhD students right now are looking at straight biomechanics. We're producing a biomechanist, gender inclusion in sports in the Caribbean, para-athletes in the Caribbean, the economic impact of CPL to the Caribbean, et cetera, et cetera. So it's varied across all sorts of disciplines. We've also partnered, because we heard yesterday about the need for research in the region, and I spoke to the research we did on scoping the needs of climate change and Caribbean sport, which will allow us to launch activities in that area. We've also partnered with the French Caribbean, and especially with CREPS de la Guadeloupe, or de la Antilles, because it includes French Guiana, and the University des Antilles. And we've done a scoping study on the educational needs of elite and high-level coaches of the French and English-speaking Caribbean region, perceived competency gaps, and views on professionalization of coaching. That's where we went to the coaches and asked them how do they want to upskill themselves. And having gone across 12 countries in the English and French-speaking Caribbean, we heard their views of how they want to be upskilled. Because we have taken over the coaching level delivery of Cricket West Indies, so that level 2 and level 3 is delivered by us. And I'm very mindful that a lot of the coaching certificates that take place in other sports is a matter of just turning up. You turn up and you get a certificate. Whether you've learned is a different thing altogether. And then people walk around with certificates saying that we're such and such coach. That's not going to lift the level of our coaches. We've also, in partnership with them, set up and are now applying for Erasmus funding for the Executive Masters in European Caribbean High Performance Management, which is meant to go to members of Canoc, really, high-level people for executive masters, embedding you in 2 European high-performance centers and 2 Caribbean ones to look at sports governance, etc. In fact, as far as sports governance is concerned, the Association of Netball Federations of North America had us run programs for 3 years straight, talking to their presidents and doing a 14-week course on sports governance. So I say that to say that there's opportunity for a lot of education and cooperation through this agreement. Immediate things that we can do as short courses are injury prevention and management, fitness testing and benchmarking, mental skills using our sports psychologists, sports governance, as I mentioned before, and a lot of coaching certification. Lastly, the need for research is massive in the region. We've got to use our own data. We as a university can provide the framework for it. You as Canoc can provide the structure and resources for it. And so this is very timely. And the last thing I'll mention, you had spoken about opportunities for athletes here. Of the 87 medals that Jamaica has won at the Olympics, 21 come from my own track at Mona. And in fact, the last World Championships, we had a gold and 2 bronze, and one of the bronzes for somebody not in the region, so we have people coming from overseas. But I'm happy to announce that when it comes to cricket, we've just signed with Cricket West Indies for the combined campuses and colleges team to play in the 50-over and first-class competitions for the next 4 years to allow our cricketers to get an education, a tertiary institution, and play cricket without having to leave the region. The CCC is an instrument for all sport. And so when you spoke about combined teams, here's an opportunity for CCC, which includes all tertiary universities and institutions in the Caribbean, to compete in athletics and in other sports at the world stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mansingh. And now we go to the sign-in. Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph.
I want to say that, you know, this is a very important milestone for us. I remember when Steve and others gathered to talk about the establishment of first the Caribbean Caucus and then Canoc. The focus at the time was to host a Caribbean Games. And we felt it was time for our people to see our athletes compete. And as we had numerous challenges getting to the point of actually putting a framework for the Caribbean Games, we then sat, I think it was in Buenos Aires, and reviewed the whole mandate and said, you know, there is so much more that we can do. And Angel Morales was given the responsibility for leading the academy, the education component of Canoc. And there we started. We had relationships with Toronto Organizing Committee for 2015 that gave us opportunities and funding to have 4 workshops in different Caribbean countries. Things were going well with Lima, and then we had some challenges with getting through there. But we always felt that it was important for us to have this kind of collaboration with UE. And when we were in Jamaica on a workshop on Sport for All, one of the professors who came and made a presentation to us indicated that Canoc was very well poised to play the role that it is now playing in respect of collaborating with our educational institutions within the Caribbean, so we can have a safe repository, not just of what we unearthed from our research, but also of our own history, the history of our athletes, the history of our engagement in sports, and the noble legacy that they have all helped us. On behalf of Canoc, I wish to express our sincere gratitude, because the document is actually signed, interestingly, by Barbadian Sir Hilary Beckles, who is the Vice Chancellor of the university, on behalf of the university. And so we're very enamored at the history that is made today in Barbados. Our lead master scout, Sir Hilary Beckles, and you, sir, for your presence with us today. Thank you very much, and thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, you would like to say a few brief words on this significant occasion?
Thank you. The first thing I will say is that you have made a sports minister very, very proud, and pleased. I didn't see the notes, and a lot of what was revealed this morning, I think it will go a long way in terms of us developing sports in the region at the rate that all of us will be proud. So this is really, really good for us. I mean, I can't say how pleased I am. I'm hoping to see the document at another time to peruse it, but I'm very, very pleased about where we're at. Very, very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, while the Minister, the President, Dr. Mansingh, President Osborne, and Canoc, first Vice President, do some photo opportunities, we'll take this opportunity to bring to a close the formal part. Minister, I think you can, well, stand. Photo opportunity. So folks, that's it. We'll take a break. We come back at 10:25 a.m., not p.m. Please make sure and sign the register for us to determine the quorum. I know that this is a closed section coming up, but I know that special dispensation would have been given to some observers that can be verified with Natalia. Yeah? So we're on a break, and refreshments are outside, and come back at 10:25 a.m. for the business part of our General Assembly. The 21st Canoc General Assembly. And again, we thank all of those tuning in, looking on the live stream for sharing this special and significant occasion with us.